I'm Renee Knorr, model, creative director, founder of Global Women Wealth Warriors, Wellness Hub, and GW3 magazine. I dedicated my life and devoted my career into helping women and girls to achieving their goals. I've been passionate about empowering women and enriching men. This opportunity in working with the Global Women Wealth Warriors have afforded me the pleasure of traveling outside of the country to be a support unit, most importantly, to help impact and change lives. Our ultimate purpose is to help others to become whole from finance, spiritual, mental, as well as physical. We know there are challenges and obstacles to get you to the next level. However, it's time for you to level up, boss up, and welcome to Power to Soar.
Well, we want to say hello to you, yes, and especially you. We want to welcome you to Voices, the talk show, where we bring the conversation from the clubhouse right into your house. This show is sponsored by, it is produced by, and is the creative work of none other than Renee Knorr. She is the founder and the curator of the GW3 Global Club, the Global Women Wealth Warriors Club on Clubhouse. Our members are passionate about positively impacting the lives of women and girls while also enriching men to reach an abundance lifestyle. A lifestyle gained through financial literacy, learning new currency, and maintaining healthy eating for wellness. Renee is a global keynote speaker. She's an award-winning international Ebony Fashion Fair model. She's a marathon runner. She's an award-winning golfer, and along with too many other awards, accolades, and accomplishments for me to tell you in the time of this show. But look here, go ahead and put your hands together, clap those mics, or just put an emoji or some fire on Clubhouse, and for none other than the beautiful one, the legend, the intelligent mentor, just to name a few, the woman herself, my friend, Miss Renee Knorr. Hello, Renee.
Hey, Pastor Jeff, how are you doing, my love? How are you?
I am super fantastic, riding on the same wave I was the last time that we were here. And if I was doing any better, I'd be walking with the angels. I am hyped. We've got another exciting show. And Today we got a king whose last name is actually King. I can't wait to get into it. So I get to say King, double King.
Right? Oh my goodness, your energy is infectious. And yes, today is going to be another sensational opportunity for us to get to know more of our men that we're going to be honoring for the 2022 Power to Soar Leadership Conference. Oh my goodness. Well, you know what, Pastor Jeff, this giant here, he's such an inspirational person. I've had the opportunity of meeting Craig King in 2008. Oh my goodness. It seems as if it was just yesterday. You know, that was one of those moments also in time. Maybe it was 2000. No, it's a little bit later than 2008. You know why? Because New Orleans won the Super Bowl the year that we wound up connecting. So it's a little bit after 2000.
You were happy.
It was more like 2011. Oh my God. And you know what? We have been true to, we've been able to connect. We've been able to do more great things together. But what I appreciate about Craig King, he has been not only a pioneer to the game where it relates to music. I mean, he's worked alongside some of our legends like our Ray Charles, alongside with Mr. Quincy Jones, as well as the man himself. I mean, wait, I already said two of them that was like legendary within itself, right? But also he continues on working with Ludacris. But most importantly, he is true to our youth. And that's one of the huge pieces that I love so much about him, how he keeps on paying it forward. So without further ado, Pastor Jeff, let's bring up the man himself, Mr. Craig King. Woo!
All right.
Yes.
For the
You're too
King
kind.
Craig King.
Too kind. Too
Look
kind.
at
2
you.
times.
Oh my goodness. How are you doing today?
I am magnificent. Thank you so much
Yes.
for asking. How are you doing?
You are like a good old tall glass of, I mean, a tall bottle of wine. You're getting better with time, brother.
Oh
You
man,
haven't
thank you.
aged
Thank
at
you.
all. You know that?
Thank you so much, Renee.
Yes.
I
Life has
love
been
the
good to you.
outfit. Love the outfit too. Love it.
Thank you. And you know, I love hats. I'm going to have to wear my hat next time, Pastor Joe. You know how much I love hats. But you're over there doing it really, really well. Now, you know, it's been, I guess, how long has it been since we've seen each other? At least 6 to 7 years.
Yeah,
But
in
we've
person.
seen each other, but we
Yeah,
just haven't really been connected. So it's
right.
been a minute right now.
Very, very
But you are just blazing the universe. You
thank
have
you.
you haven't missed a beat. I think
Thank
the
you.
last time we were online, we were talking and you and Ludacris was getting some things together. I want people to know who you really are, though. Please tell us, how did you get started in this fascinating world that you are in? Please, can you do that
Well,
for us?
sure thing. Well, for those who don't know, I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee, the Music City. And I started off as a drummer at my church. And then I eventually got pulled into playing the organ and the piano. And, God blessed. And I ended up really taking the piano to the next level. And so people started coming from different churches to watch me play. And I already, it was a Pentecostal church. We were already extra musical, what we were already, doing. But it just started to catch the attention of the city, what I was doing. And I got a music endorsement with Yamaha at 16. A number of country music artists to come visit our church to watch me and my band play and stuff like that. And so I ended up getting a music scholarship at Howard University. I mean, let me do this for all my Howardites that, let me get that out. Get that out there,
I love it. Oh, they're gonna love you. They're gonna love
I
you
got
for
that's just
that.
for my
You
fellow
know that,
bison.
Craig.
But got to Howard as a jazz and classical pianist. That was my major. Full ride, and that just kind of really shaped my life. I'll go one step back. Before I went to Howard, I spent the entire summer on a youth program. It was like it's called the Youth Ambassador Program. From it was like city to city, state to state, and they took 50 young people over to Europe, and we spent the entire summer in Europe when I was 17, and that really shaped my view of the world. Because up until then, I was really just playing in Nashville, and just trying to knock down doors and get in rooms and create. You know how it is when you're black and you do a thing. Oftentimes you end up being the first. So in Nashville, I was the first in a lot of areas, the first to get this endorsement, the first to play on Music Row at that age, and all that kind of stuff. But once I got to Europe and I saw how international the black church sound was, I'll just say that, and bringing that anointing into Germany, into East Berlin, West Berlin, taking that sound into Amsterdam, London, Bristol, Portishead, and Paris. And it was just being a 17-year-old church boy and carrying that sound that God puts on us when we come up in the African American church experience, because there's nothing like that around the world. I got a chance to see what kind of impact that would have. And that really guided me for the rest of my life, just seeing how God's gift could work and that sonic currency would work around the world again and again and again, no matter what. We have a lot of influence that we're unaware of as a people. And even to this day, I'm baffled by what kind of influence we have globally, which is why I'm so careful with how I present myself. Nationally, locally, globally, it doesn't matter. I'm very careful about that because I understand the impact. With that being said, when I got to Howard, I had a one-up now because all my peers, they didn't really know what I had just done, you know, over in Europe. So I had that added kind of how do you say, fire and insight into the impact of what we do and what I do. And so I ended up at that point, I started playing at Richard Smallwood's church. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Richard Smallwood, but I started playing at his church, and it was only because he had already asked me to go out on tour with him and do certain dates with him. So I was his organist, and that ended up putting me in his church environment, which then I ended up becoming sort of the organist of his church too. And you know, I'll cut into the story and say that from there, I got noted as the guy, sort of the young guy in town that you go to for a certain sound. And so I ended up bonding with a mayor out of Roanoke, Virginia, who fell in love with what I was doing sonically, musically. And he would fly me into Roanoke on the weekends to play at his church. He happened to be a mayor and the pastor of a church. And so it was an interesting mix. And so the way it all ended up for me was that one year Ray Charles had to come through Roanoke to do a gig, and he could not, his organist was out of pocket. He had gotten caught up in some things and couldn't quite recover. And so the mayor said, I have a guy that you should hear. And Ray was like, at this point, we're desperate. So we're going to hold a statewide audition and fly in some musicians and see who can hold this gig down. So I flew in. I didn't expect to get the gig, but I did appreciate the mayor flying me in for the experience. So I thought that alone at 19 was worth everything, just the experience. And so it would happen that Ray ended up saying that's who I wanted. And then everybody laughed and said, you know, this Negro was 19 years old, right? So, and he said, well, I love him. Where you from, boy? I said, I'm from Nashville. He said, I hear it. I hear that. You know, so, you know, Ray had an appreciation for that Southern sound anyway. And so I knew to kind of put that inside of my audition. And it worked out for me. And so from there, Quincy Jones was the conductor of the event. So it turned into a larger discussion about mentorship, menteeship, and all that kind of just leaked into my bloodstream musically. And then from there, Quincy started working on a TV show. The show happened to be called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I ended up being a huge part of that because Will and I bonded, and we ended up doing a big record called Summertime together, which ended up being my first platinum record. I ended up doing a remix to that record with Jazzy Jeff, who was Will's partner, and I ended up basically working out of LA for a long time and doing all the things that came residually through a Will Smith ecosystem. So that's now we're talking all kinds of things from film to television to cartoons and all the things that came through that camp. And so that's really how I got started.
You know, your story is giving me chills. You know, I'm just like, wow. Not only is it giving me chills, you know, it's just really shows the humility that you have within yourself also, Craig, you know. And I'm grateful that you gave us that journey of walking.
It was a little long, but I wanted to give you a little bit of color.
No, I love it. You can keep on going and talking for hours because I enjoy listening to you anyways, right? You know, but the great part about it, when you mention the name Ray, you know, Ray Charles, automatically I get chills, you know. There's a couple of things that we're going to be doing that you're going to appreciate on August, but also it's so funny. We've had, like last week, we had an interview with another gent that I'm going to introduce you to. And one of his amazing wishes is so therefore he can do an interview of Will Smith. So everything happened for the right time and the right season. All right. Even when you and I connected, here we are all the way in Miami. And lo and behold, not only did we connect, we resonated. And I mean, it has just been like long time friendship. And I really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
You have done something that most people probably would have loved to do at the age of 19. I mean, being so young, but being around legends, and you didn't even know such power that and influence that these legends would have on your career today. And I think that's probably why one of the great reasons why you keep paying it forward for our youth. Is
Well,
that
that's
true?
that is true. And so there are a couple of things I will add to that point. One, my youthful naivete. I wasn't a Ray Charles fan at all. I knew who he was. I wasn't a fan. I was a Stevie Wonder fan. And so when the gig came, the idea of even getting the possibility to audition, I mentioned it to my professors in the jazz department, and they said they flipped out. And so this is the first time I'd ever seen them crack a smile. These jokers were serious, like they were hand hitters, like they pop your hands when you hit the wrong chord. They were not, they weren't impressed with our generation of music, with Guy and all the stuff we were listening to. You know what I mean? They weren't impressed. But when I said Ray Charles, that's when they said, you go and you do that. I said, well, what if it ends up being a tour? And they said, oh, we'll figure out a way to accredit you, brother. This is good for the school. That's good for the school. So I wasn't as impressed, but here's the thing: when I saw Quincy Jones's name on the sheet music, and they mailed it to me, because this was pre-internet, so they couldn't email it to me, right? So when they mailed me all the sheet music, and I saw the eraser marks, and I realized Quincy actually composed every single note, then I was blown away, because I was definitely a Quincy Jones fan. You know what I mean? Because I knew he had worked with Michael Jackson. So it was kind of like one of those moments where I wasn't intimidated by Ray, so it was easy to kind of just become that moment and do what I needed to do. When I got out there and saw Quincy, I was like, okay, it's taking on a whole new meaning for me. So I say all that to say, though, the impact that they had on my life and the way that they moved with such elegance and grace. First time I ever worked with Quincy outside of that gig was on a TV show, and then coming home and having a bouquet of roses with him writing a full letter to me, thanking me for my time with him. That was when I learned what humility really was. This man already had 82 Grammy nominations at this point. So I'm like, so if I can receive this from this kind of guy, there's never a reason for me to be cocky or arrogant in life. Never. Because he's seen the pinnacle of every single thing I would ever want to accomplish. And here he is sending a bouquet of roses to my house. Like, you know what I mean? And so there were these little notes that I had to start to take in my life and figure out what mattered and what didn't. And so I never got caught up in any of this stuff, because I learned from the greatest minds that that's just not the way to do this. This whole industry is driven by relationships, the whole thing. And then the other part to it was, now that I'm older, I am old enough now to understand the legacy. I am old enough now to understand what was happening back then. I wasn't then. I was too young to really understand it. But now I'm older. So now I understand the significance of it. So now everything I do, I'm constantly informed by how to impact young people's lives. And they may not even understand it at the moment. So every single time I have a panel or we orchestrate an event for the youth, I walk into it knowing that a lot of the stuff that they're going to learn today, they won't even understand the significance of it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But that's okay. That's okay. Plant those seeds, because our children right now are imitating caricatures online. They're imitating caricatures online. That's why they're lost. A great deal of our youth spend 7 to 8 hours a day on the internet. So when you see that trend, you realize that you can't be surprised that they keep repeating the same ad choices over and over and over again. Not that we were perfect, but they have less great people to see, because they're caught up in algorithms that keep them buried in a lot of trash. Every time they try to come up, it grabs them and pulls them back down. It grabs the adults too. We have to determine how much of our time we're willing to give to trash. But we're not at the age where they are, where they're so influenced, And so that has become my why. My brother mentioned earlier, what is your why? That has become my why. My gift is my how. That's my tool to reach the youth. But my why is the impact that we have on the youth. My legacy Doesn't matter to me because I know if I have impact, it will create that legacy. But so for me, it's all about impact first, impact first, impact first.
You know, you said something so powerful. You know, you made sure not only do you understand, you're just a vessel. God is using you as the vessel. So therefore, you not only can impact our youth, but to keep on paying it forward. And I'll say this about you, your leadership, your character, it hasn't changed from day one. Not only have you stayed true to yourself, you know, you've always stayed grounded. And that is something I want to say. You must was raised by old school because you definitely have some old school ways about your grandparents, some things that just have, you know, I think that's what some of the kids are missing today. You know, Craig, when we look at our generation, yes, it's important for us to say the generation, but we don't have, you know, Big Mama anymore because Big Mama's 34. You know, we don't have anyone to really these youth can really look up to. So that's why we have to do our part. There was one point when we grew up where the entire community really raised the community. And that's the piece that we're missing as well. And that's why I'm so grateful. Not only we're coming back together, we're going to do our part in making sure that we're servicing this land with our youth. You know, currently right now, music. Oh my goodness. We know music just brings everyone together. And you know, some of the youth that we work alongside with, the first thing I always ask them as I go and speak to the young ladies as well as the young boys, what is your favorite song? Craig, this music these days, oh my God, everybody got a curse word in their songs. Really? Oh my God, I always ask them, but do you have a clean version of that? You know, because I know for sure that's something that can resonate with them. But I'm loving the fact that not only you're taking it above and beyond, you're talking about coding. You're literally showing the kids now are the youth. I have to say our young leaders, you're showing them how to totally get fully engulfed in that space. How exciting is that?
It's exhilarating. I mean, coding is what we do is we're teaching young people how to make beats while learning how to code because we're meeting them where they are. And fortunately for me, I have a lot of people in my phone who do amazing music. So I lean on my community to bring them into this discussion about making beats. And then I drag in my tech side of my community. And I say, now let's figure out ways to help them learn how to code while making these beats so that they can learn JavaScript and Python. They name these transferable skills because our youth need, well, first of all, forget our youth, our people need to be retrained. There's a whole lot of job opportunities that we're not getting because we don't have the tools, the skills to take those jobs on. And so now for me, it's not just music. It's about how do we use music as a lightning rod to get people's attention. And then once we have their attention, present them all this this other amazing information that's going to help them and impact their lives so they can actually get jobs, whether it's in the music industry or not. So my company, what we do is we put a hyper emphasis on the 49 music industry verticals that don't require holding a microphone. So now you're talking about choreographers, lawyers, accountants, engineers, mixing engineers, mastering engineers, sound designers, digital marketing, digital media. You know, these are the kind of things that we're putting our energy into because the other community, meaning the musicians and the rappers, they're well spoken for. Trust me, they get enough attention. What we're trying to do is figure out ways to put the emphasis on the other people who are doing this amazing work that requires a different type of discipline, right? But it pays you all this great money quietly. And the people who I love the most who do this kind of work, typically they don't talk about it. They do their job and they go home and they raise their families. My problem with that is they're the ones I want our youth to see. You know what I mean? So I'm like, we got a problem here, folks. So what I've done is I've challenged all my peers to give me an hour or two of their time and make master classes for me. And we'll put it all on Rap Plug Academy's distribution network. And it's an app, you know, and it's an online site as well. And we're forming a partnership right now with Delta, and we're doing some serious conversations about how to get those classes up in the air on the back of those airplane seats, as well as in the school systems. And you have these hyperlinks. It's up in class. You want to learn something today about a job that you never heard of? Hey, let's talk about sound design. Go to Rap Plug Academy, get the link, And let's watch a whole class on that. And it's not just for school, it's for prison, juvenile, you know, you name it, after school programs. That's my big picture dream. And that doesn't stop here in the US. That goes abroad, because there's nothing worse than getting off a plane in South Africa and the brothers pick you up and the first thing they say is, "What up, my nigga?" Because they think that's what we want to hear them say. And I'm like, okay, so that means you've been ill-informed too, because we've given you that in the media too. So we've got to figure out a way to communicate to our brothers and sisters everywhere, because there's a whole different language happening inside this space where we live that y'all aren't hearing. You know what I mean? Because you're imitating our caricatures too, which I can't be mad at, because you're in the same algorithm as my niece. So I understand how that happens. You know what I mean? But it's on us. So that's my role. That's the role I've taken on, and I'm challenging all my friends who are Grammy Award winning and Grammy Award nominated and Emmy winning and Oscar winning. And I'm like, look, we owe this to our youth, and I'm not going to beg you to come out of your gated community to meet us down in Watts. I already know you ain't coming. So let me come to your house and let me film you, and I'll put it up over here. Mm-hmm. But just tell them how you did what you did. Explain it day to day. I want them to understand it.
Well, you know what you're saying, it takes so much energy, you know, and I love the fact that you understand you're that genius that continue on with that vibration, like you talked about that algorithm, you know, and being able to attract that continuously to help you get those relationships. One of the greatest things that we're going to be doing, we're definitely going to be working with more of these young leaders, because one of the greatest things that we can do, keep on showing up for our future leaders of tomorrow, but at the same token, making sure we are aligning ourselves with the right partnerships. You mentioned Delta alongside, hey, let's go to Hartsfield Jackson. You know, we got so many different partners that yes, we can really not only fuel this concept together, but the greatest part about it, you know, with the Global Women World Wars, we are globally. And as we're fueling the right energy and the right synergy, we're going to make sure we're doing this together. So therefore we can truly impact the lives everywhere that we go. I mean, we're in Dubai, we're in Africa, we're in London, we're in Paris. So right now, I know right now there's some hardship in some of our third world countries, but that's okay. That's because we're not there yet. And we're going to make sure we make that a stepping stone, as well as a responsibility for us to, you know, keep doing our part. I want to say this before we ask Pastor Jeff to jump into this conversation.
And I want to add one more point there.
Yes.
I want to give Google a shout out, because they partnered with us on several initiatives recently with our beats to coding, and they have really stood by us in that area. And the last event we did at Georgia Tech, they were amazing. So I want to give them a shout out. And I want to give AT&T a shout out for choosing me as a future Black future maker, and standing by us as well. So I'm going to just kind of put that out there. The next group of things we'll be doing are with Apple, primarily the next group of things, but I just want to give them a shout out, and shout out to Apple too for just leaning in and understanding the mission.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it takes so much tenacity, as well as it takes so much grit. How do you maintain your motivation, your adrenaline? Because, you know, one of the greatest things that we have to keep doing is staying in the right energy, right? I want to know, how do you really prepare yourself as you're going from different projects? You know, sometimes I always say there's no such thing as no's, right? It's just, you just don't understand what I'm talking about. So let me talk to you about this over here, you know. But what does it take for you in regard to working on these different projects for you to really have the right energy to overcome anything? What does it take for you?
For me, it's gotten real simple. I have a 12-year-old daughter. I always try to imagine what her world is going to look like. So whenever I get tired, I look in her face and I imagine what the world looks like without us doing the work that we do. And so it keeps me on task. My 12-year-old daughter, you would think, right? That little girl keeps me on task. You know, her friends, her cousins, all of them. I'm just like, yeah, no. I can't let y'all down. I got to do the work, because I know for a fact I can't even turn on R&B radio right now, because you're going to hear a million cuss words. If I turn on any videos that have Megan or Cardi or any of them, I already know what you're going to see. So I have a job to do. You know what I mean? And while doing that job, which is basically a form of ministry, while doing that job, we can still add value in other ways. So I'm not just focused on the creatives. I can still focus on those who do want to learn technology and all that. So there's a bigger conversation there. So you're not handcuffed to the arts, because unfortunately, traditionally and historically, people lock us into the arts and the sports. So my thing is, yeah, we can leverage the arts to amplify a message, but it doesn't always have to be about becoming a creator. If you love it, that's great. But I'm trying to put the peel in the peanut butter. So whether you care about the arts or not, we're going to have other messages in here for you.
Yes.
Okay. And so for me, that's why it's important to partner with Morgan Stanley or different organizations that teach financial literacy or mental health. It's important to partner with a lot of different groups, because there are a lot of different messages we can get to the kids, but leverage us, because we're in the culture. Leverage me. We're in the culture. We speak shorthand of these babies.
You know, it's so great. You talked about that Morgan Stanley alongside with even Wells Fargo, you know, some of those brands that we're working with right now. That's why I said we're getting ready to take this to a whole nother level, Craig. And I'm super excited about that.
Let's lock in, Renee. Let's lock in. What we doing? What we doing, Renee? Come on, Renee.
Oh my God. That's why I'm like, I gotta get my Craig in here. Oh my goodness. And I know Jeff was like, oh my goodness, I want some. Go ahead, Jeff. I know you do.
Absolutely.
Come on, Jeff. Come on,
Absolutely.
Jeff.
Look
Come
here.
on.
First off,
Jeff. Come on, brother Jeff.
First off, let me just say thank you for rewriting the algorithm to include our youth. As a great grandfather, I really appreciate what you're doing. Having experience growing up in the apostolic, then the Pentecostal, then the AME, Hebrew Israelites, and now I'm a Baptist pastor, I appreciate your path to where you are and your tenacity. One of the things that you may already be familiar with is that as you speak that universal language of music, that music is the only medium known to man that bypasses the will. And for those who don't believe me, it's been research already proven. When I was coming up, and even with the current generation, we don't sit down in front of the TV, or we don't sit down in front of IG or TikTok and intentionally learn the tunes to the commercials. But you ask somebody from my generation, what is flop flop biz biz? They know the song, they can sing it. All right, our ABCs. Before we knew what they were, we understood the tune, we understood the frequencies of the music, and we lined that with the information that we needed. So what you're doing is phenomenal. My question for you is, first of all, we need to get you down here in Augusta, hooked up with the Jesse Norman School of the Arts, which my son attended. They definitely have to get the Rap Plug Academy. But we also need to go into the churches. We need to get the churches to understand that even though it's not John P. Key, even though it's not James Cleveland, this is what is going to propel our young people to the next level. So would you mind speaking a moment? You kind of glazed on the financial literacy of understanding the 49 other areas of music that our children aren't exposed to. Would you mind sharing the range of secret salaries, as you said, in these other fields that aren't glamorized?
Well, let me just scratch the surface. So the typical manager makes 20 to 25% of every dollar an artist makes. So Lil Baby is making 30 million a year. I don't have to tell you that his manager is not hurting. I don't have to tell you that. And I'm just saying that's on an average year. I mean, it can spike like crazy. I know, of course, Will Smith's entire ecosystem in terms of managers, everybody. All of them are multi-millionaire, but you don't see them. All of them are. Ludacris's team, the guys that are doing the Karma TV show for Luda now on Netflix, he's one of my closest partners in this space that we're playing in. Making great money. He just bought his home, wife doesn't have to work. I mean, he's doing his thing. And he's probably 31 years old. You know what I mean? I have a friend that works at Pandora. He's easily making 300 grand a year. He's just working behind the scenes, helping them program for Knorr. So I'm just giving you examples of things that are not glamorized. These guys are, you can't spot them in the mall. You don't know who they are, but they're doing fine and they're taking care of their families and they're making an honest living. And most importantly, they're not risking their lives every day to do it. And I feel like that's the most important part, because unfortunately, our young black men today will do almost anything to make good money, and they're willing to risk their freedom and their lives. And so it's unfortunate because they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. You can't be what you can't see. So it's our job to put these careers in front of them, you know. And so I'm not here to glamour up these jobs. I want these guys to come on and talk about it as nerdy as they are, or as charismatic as they are. Just be yourself and explain how you do what you do, and let us get this information to the youth so that they have more options. They live in an imagination desert.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that one. Great. The mind shifters would suggest that when you know your why, that it will direct your what. And I heard you address that. I would like to ask, because I believe that when we know our whose we are and who we are, and we know that in America, that folks who look like you and me across generations, we kind of had our identity stripped.
Mm-hmm.
And so to know whose we are, to know who we are, will then determine what our why is, which then will direct our what. What would you say to the youth of today on identifying the whose they are, the who they are, so that they can develop the why?
That question is literally a 2-hour discussion. I think you already know that it's a long discussion. And be frank with you, I have this conversation often with brothers from here in Africa, and it's not an easy question to answer, because to break it down in small bites is not an easy thing to do, and the time that we need to have that discussion. But I will tell you this: I can speak from my personal experience. My moral compass is my absolute leader. It leads me in all the decision making that I have sort of made throughout the years. Now, for me, a great deal of what that comes from is my upbringing. But everybody's not afforded that. Spent the last 3 days with my mom and dad. And when I'm in their home, I see all the checkpoints of that moral compass. I see it. I'm in the orbit of it. So I know most of what I am was informed by what was being incubated in that house. So I can't take a whole lot of credit for it. You know what I mean? I'm just being honest. And I know I can't, because I look at my sisters and they have similar patterns, similar ethics. I mean, we're kind of almost cut and paste. So I'm like, I know we didn't develop this. This came from a system. You know what I mean? But with that being said, man, at its core, my mom and dad were informed by their spirituality, their connection to God, their respect for a higher being and a higher calling and a purpose. And so I've talked to people who didn't have that, though, who also had a purpose. So it's kind of hard for me to, they identified theirs early in life, and they came from different walks of life. Some came from prison, some came from, whatever. So it's interesting to have these conversations with younger brothers and sisters about it, and not to sound like I'm judgmental or proselytizing, because I also like to give grace for growth, because there's an evolutionary track that we're all on too. So I try to make sure I don't hammer them too hard, because I'm like, I believe you're going to figure this out. Let's just stay the course. And I don't even know if I'm even able to fully answer your question in this little window. It's almost like I would rather have a discussion about it as opposed to having a monologue, because it requires that kind of answer from me, because I can't really, you know what I mean? But
Absolutely. So let me ask you this then, Craig, because it is a complex question,
yes, it is.
but you're taking on a complex and a challenging mission.
Yes, I am.
If it was easy, everybody would be doing it, and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
That's right.
So,
and even in that, it's evolving.
Yeah.
Because my answer today might sound different a year from today. So, but go ahead.
So with that, in the amount of time that we have, because no man is an island, and because of what you do in mentoring youth, what we do at GW3 in mentoring both women and men, the girls and the boys, what's the first step that those who are listening can take, especially the leaders? And specifically, I want to talk to the church leaders, the pastors, the teachers. What's the first step that they can take so that we can continue to teach this algorithm and to update it as it evolves?
Yeah. I can only speak from the step I take, which is meeting them where they are, not proselytizing, but meeting and understanding what their challenges are of today, because they are different. Their challenges are different. There's this thing called the internet. I don't know if y'all heard of it, but it has taken over not only our youth's lives, but our entire lives. And it has in its convenience made a lot of things, put a lot of disruption in our foundation. So I'm always trying to find the youth and meet them where they are. I go in, just so I give you an example. I go into a session and I immediately mention, who are your favorite artists? I just want to know who's in the room. I'm like, who are your favorite artists? And just based on some of those answers, man, I start to figure out how to communicate to them. And that for me though, because I have access to the information, I know those artists, I know what they're about. I know that helps me sort of demystify their role models for them, because you're thinking this guy is the baddest thing that since the, and I understand why, because you hear his music all the time. You hear it in the car. Your older brother plays it. It's on the radio all day. Every meme has his music. I get it. Let's break him down. Let's have a whole conversation about him. So for me, I meet them where they are. But again, that's not necessarily what I would tell a pastor to do if they're not dialed into that space, because that's a lot of dimension that's required of that, and a lot of nuance. And that's why I also bring with me 4 or 5 young people who are in their 30s and maybe upper 20s, who are also of that culture. So we can help together collectively figure out where these young people are based on what they listen to, what they care about. And then we can break that down and why this right here can take you the wrong way. And this path can go here. And man, why, if you love this rapper, why? Give me the reason behind why. I want to know, because that helps me understand how to communicate. And just so you know, like a couple of my favorite musicians right now. I did a panel recently for the National Black Museum in Nashville, Music Museum in Nashville, and I had Adam Blackstone and the Origin Band on there. And the question came up: why do you think the Black church produces so many phenomenal musicians? And so I had my favorite Black church musicians on, all of them on tour with the baddest, you know what I mean? Like right now, they did the Oscars recently. They performed at the halftime show with Dr. Dre. They did the CNN event the other day. They did the Oscars. They did the Grammys. They do it all. And I asked them, what is it about the church that created this great breeding ground for phenomenal musicians who can play gospel and then go right into secular seamlessly and kill it? And this particular group that I'm talking about right now, we have prayer services on Thursday mornings. Like, we do different things. You know what I mean? Because they're trying to stay grounded, man. It's not trying to stay grounded. They're trying not to get lost in this space. But we realized that there's a different frequency that you church. having to learn the keys of songs where there's no sheet music, having to match the tempo as it changes. People jump up and just stand up and sing, and you got to locate that key. Um, Long services. I mean, if you go to Pentecostal church, you're going to be in church all day. You know, love it or hate it, that's training. That's training.
Absolutely, an hour shouting before you even get a message.
What are you talking about? You know what I mean? And the service is almost deemed not as good if there's not some high level of musicianship happening at some point. And we would go to certain churches just to see the band was good. And there's something to be said about that though, because you would say, well, that's not a good reason to go. Guess what though? I knew where you were. Mama knew where I was. You know what I mean? I had to carry that heavy equipment. I had to do all the things that come from being disciplined and then showing up on time. And if you don't show up on time, somebody might be in your seat. See, all of that right there is a part of the frequency I'm talking about. So even though I'm not answering your question directly, it helps me tap in to the youth, because what a lot of folk in church didn't know was that we were bringing in some secular elements to take the service to another level. So what am I saying? There is some secular stuff that needs to happen in the church world to capture the youth.
Yes.
Because let's be clear, in the secular world, they take church stuff all the time. It's happening all day.
Absolutely. So
Yes.
to the parent,
I'm sorry.
to the and we'll definitely have this dialogue in the future. To the parent that is listening and watching this show, what's the first step outside of going to your website that they can take for their children, for their grandchildren, and maybe even their great-grandchildren, which is not uncommon to be all in one household these days? What can that parent do to start understand what this algorithm is that we're talking about without being able to spell algorithm, but to be able to assist their generations?
Well, I heard a statement the other day. They asked, "Is it storming where you are?" I'm just curious.
Yes.
Okay, good, because we got
Yes,
all
it
that.
is.
We
And
got
yes,
all that.
because that's what I was about to. Yeah, I know, right? So one of the greatest things. Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One of the things that that I have been doing with my nieces and my daughter is I'd randomly just grab her cell phone while she's in the middle of just heavy in it, like just going for it. I put limits on it, but there are peak periods where I just grab her out and I dissect what she's looking at with her so we can understand it together. That's my way of connecting with her without being judgmental, because I'm not even treating it like it's I caught you. I'm just like, I want to see what you're doing. You know what I mean? And so it eliminates some of that hyper focus that they have in that space, because they know in the back of their minds at any given moment, my dad may snatch his phone out of my hand, and he's not going to apologize about that. He's just going to do it. And I've talked to a few of my friends about that, and they now do it because it is an important play. Just normalize that. Don't act like it's a shocker. Just normalize it. You know,
Yes.
so that it doesn't shock you. You know, like when we were young, Mama said, "Don't lock your door." Like, I will. Y'all, this ain't like, you don't own nothing up here. Don't be locking your room door. To me, the cell phone is the room door. I'm gonna go in that joker, right? What's your passcode? What you mean? What you don't? You know? So we have. Well, I make fun of it because my thing is, I don't even want you to accidentally stumble into this algorithm that you can't come out of, because I may lose you. Because there are adults in this space who they professionally know how to reach you. They know exactly what carrots to dangle to get you in this rabbit hole, and then they will find out where you live, what mall you like. They'll find out all your things that you care about, and they'll act like they're 6 years old. Why I lost you? Because they didn't introduce you to a whole new society that I was unaware of, because I'm not savvy enough to understand how a sexual predator thinks.
Yes.
I'm not savvy enough to understand that.
Well, I'm loving this conversation that we're having with you, Craig. And I want to say this. I want to say first and foremost, thank you for your time. Thank you for just even giving so much of yourself, as well as your courage, for being able to step up to do what some people probably can't really see, but you already understand the importance. And because you understand the importance, it's time for us to not only to really collaborate, but let's take it to the next level, right?
Okay.
Because we already know there's work to do. And as they say, much is asked of us, as long as we see the opportunities, as well as we see the vision crystal clear. And my friend, as you are eloquently sharing with us, the vision is crystal clear. So now let's go ahead on and put the work into it. And I'm ready for it. We have so many amazing partners that wind up right when we were in North Carolina. We were able to connect, and they truly are very passionate about what we're doing. I know next week, August the 7th, we're going to have 50 of our young leaders that's going to be with us. And we're going to have 20 of our speakers that's going to be pouring back into them. And I know for sure we're going to ask you to be one of those leaders. In addition to that, August the 19th through 21st, oh my goodness, I cannot wait for us to honor you with all of your accomplishments that you have done thus far. However, we already know you still have so much more to do. So I want us to not only close this segment out, knowing that we're going to definitely have you back. I want you to leave us with some words of wisdom, because you, my friend, have truly been remarkable today. Wouldn't you agree, Pastor Jeff?
Absolutely. I am so excited. I think I done went higher than the angels. I mean, I couldn't contain myself. I might have been a little solemn because Pastor Jeff was in his thoughts as the King, Craig King, shared with us, and having that experience in the church and what he's doing as a frequency manager in the military. When you talk about frequency, current, vibrations, and energy, you are in my wheelhouse. So I can't wait until I get there and get to shake your hand and give you a good brotherly gospel Pentecostal hug, my brother. Absolutely.
Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. It's there.
Don't threaten me. Come on.
Yeah. The only thing that would close this show better, Renee, is for him to give us some of his beats going out.
Right? Well, that's going to be on part 2. That'll be on part 2.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do this thing alongside a piano next time. We can play and talk.
Yeah, I can't wait. Truly would love that. So give us some words of wisdom, Craig, as we close out this segment here with you for Voices to Talk Show. Please take it away.
Hey, I'll just say this. Love on your family. Love on your children. We have some super, super smart young people in this world. So into them and let them lead us into the future, because there's this thing I lean on now more than ever before, and that is reverse mentorship. And I lean on it because a lot of the young people that I've come across in the last few years, they understand technology better than we do, because it's indigenous to them. We were born into it. We migrated into technology. We had old stuff, and then we got into the new stuff. All they know is the new stuff. And so there are things that they know that they're not telling us. There are things that they're seeing that they're unaware of, that they're unaware that we don't know. There are times when they laugh at us because we are doing things old school. We've got to hold their hands because they can usher us into a new tomorrow, a better, brighter tomorrow. So let's figure out ways to hold hands with our youth. They really do have an interesting take on life. Let's just pull them away from some of the negative algorithms that they're caught up in. But what they have to offer us in terms of tech and innovation can change not only our condition here, but our condition abroad.
Well, guys, there you had it. You heard it from the man himself, Mr. Craig King. And not only are we looking forward to seeing you, Craig, oh my goodness, I'm looking forward, like you said, I'm going to give you a big old hug. Oh my goodness, because it's so long overdue.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. We love you. And as one of our friends was saying, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. But one of the great things we are doing, we're going to be looking forward to partnering up with you. So therefore, we can help save the lives of our future young leaders, because it is our responsibility to show them how to live the life that they too can be destined to live. They just need the right resources, the right mentors, and most importantly, they just need an opportunity. That's all they need. They just need an opportunity, and for us to show them that we not only believe in them, but we see them. Ooh, we see them.
Yes.
So thank you so very much for joining this week's episode of Voices, the talk show. It has been a true honor and a privilege to have the man himself, Mr. Craig King, here joining us. We look forward to honoring Craig August the 19th, 2022 at the Power to Soar Leadership Conference. We look forward to having you as well. Until then, we look forward to seeing you in the near future. Bye for now.
God bless.
God bless.
Wakanda forever!